sense of what's going on. We have Yulia Klimenko, who's a member of parliament in Ukraine, and Ambassador Leela Punappa also with us, the former Deputy National Security Advisor for India. But great to have you, ladies. Let's dive straight in. On that same day, Yulia, that Donald Trump spoke of the importance of peace and sent Volodymyr Zelensky home to think about that peace deal without giving any security guarantees, Russia has launched more than 150 drone attacks on Ukrainian cities. So tell us, is this coalition of the willing a game changer, you think, for Ukraine in this scenario? Or is this just Europe trying to fill the gap left by an uncertain NATO partner called the United States?
Hello, nice to hear you, and thank you for hosting me. We have Russian attacks every day. So it started not with a meeting Zelensky and Trump on Friday. It started many years ago. So every night, civilians has to seek shelter because of the Russian bombing. And it's not. It was before, and it's going on now. But in general, what I can tell you on the issue that actually Europe, looking at the US and US, who is actually taking very internal policies up front of the foreign policies, understand that now European Union and UK, United Kingdom, will be responsible for defense and security in our continent, in our region. And they're taking further and strong steps, and we are very welcome it because we understand we have the common borders, we have a big enemy very close to us, so we have to be united. And I think this is one of the first meeting to have, so to say, European, UK, Ukrainian union or alliance to coordinate our efforts and
what has really changed? Yulia, in your understanding, in Ukraine's understanding, as far as Europe's role and its investment in this fight that Ukraine has with Russia, is this a true investment now that Europe is making? What has really changed with the coalition of the willing? Does it feel like a last-minute scramble even to keep that war from spiraling any further?
I think yes, it's a last-minute understanding that the war is real and it's coming to the European continent, and nobody wants to have World War III. And actually, Europe has to think about the defense and security more than US and other countries. So now we see that European Union is taking their responsibility, and with the Ukraine, with a 1 million army of Ukrainians, with 50% production of the weapon produced by Ukraine, we can have a very good and productive and strong alliance.
Do you think this is going to be a strong alliance? Ambassador Punappa, do weigh in on this. It does mark a real shift in global power dynamics, this coming together of European leaders. Are we seeing Europe finally taking that lead in security, independent of Washington? Ambassador Punappa, that was for you. Maybe you need to unmute yourself, Ambassador.
Okay. I don't think you can ever keep the United States out of the picture, because that's an essential part of any alliance in terms of the security of Europe, whether it was in the case of Germany during World War II, or whether in the case of the kind of relations that are now taking place between Russia and the rest of Europe, and of course the war in Ukraine. But if you go back to Trump 1, you might recall that very famous photograph, which showed President Trump very defiantly sitting with the other EU leaders. And since then, the point he has been making is that Europe needs to step up in terms of its military expenditure. And now I do believe that this is a tipping point.
Yes.
So for Europe to come together, Starmer has made his comments about increase in defense spending, about commitment to peacekeeping groups if necessary. Macron likewise. I think this has been a wake-up call for Europe.
Yes.
Because there has been a high degree of comfort, I could even call it complacency,
right,
about the American backup.
Right.
And now, this is Trump's shock and awe method. He sort of told Europe in no uncertain terms, step up, guys. Otherwise, the deal is not going to go through.
Right.
Now, I think in a way, this wake-up call for Europe is positive because it has forced European leaders to make commitments.
Right.
And I have no doubt that there will be a lot of back-channel diplomacy going on with the Americans so that if Trump gets some satisfaction from seeing Europe spending a little more on its own defense.
So you're saying that a deal cannot be struck without the active involvement of the US. France and UK now spearheading this effort, which they call the coalition of the willing. Do you see this impacting NATO's role in the war?
Well, does NATO have a role in the war? NATO is not, is this NATO's war? This was a question that came up right at the very beginning.
Exactly.
But it was Ukraine that really fronted the Russian troops. So I think we have to see how the situation develops. If you take a look at the entire footage of that White House, of that Oval Office meeting, Trump's whole focus was close the deal, and we will then look at other things. Now, there are other indications of Trump and of the United States wanting to reset its relations with Russia. That was very evident in the meetings at Riyadh. There are questions that have arisen, for example, about an executive order that withdraws American support for the sustenance of Ukraine's electricity system.
Sure.
That has kept it going these past 3 years.
Yes.
So there are questions. There's no point, there's no issue that this is a churn.
Right.
How it will end, we do not know.
Right.
We will need to see how matters develop in the next few days.
Yes.
I won't even say weeks, next few days, because there must be very, very active back-channel diplomacy going on this main issue.
Right. Zelensky, on his part, is trying to sound a more peaceful note after that huge verbal spat with Trump and Vance in that meeting that was highly publicized. And of course, we've seen it everywhere getting played up in so many different ways. But now what is Zelensky saying? Just listen into what he said.
Як підсумок цих днів, чітка підтримка Європи, більше єдності, ще більше готовності співпрацювати, всі єдині в головному, щоб мир був реальним, потрібні реальні гарантії безпеки. І це позиція всієї нашої Європи, усього континенту. Британія, Європейський Союз, Норвегія, Туреччина. Сьогодні ми скоординували наші позиції. Звісно, ми усвідомлюємо важливість Америки. І ми вдячні за всю підтримку, яку ми отримали від Сполучених Штатів Америки. Не було такого дня, що ми не відчували цієї вдячності, бо це вдячність за збереження нашої незалежності.
Well, it's quite clear. Zelensky seems to be more accepting of a minerals deal, though security guarantees are not off the table. He is underlining the importance of that. Yulia, what's the thought towards this access to the minerals deal in Ukraine as of now?
The text of the agreement. This is it's not any real agreement. It's just a framework of the agreement of future, so to say, investment fund agreement. I think it's a good one because we can attract US investments as well as we have the same deal with the European Union and other countries. So we're happy to invest as much as we can foreign direct investments. We need it very much. As you know, on the territory of Ukraine, we have a lot of critical minerals, 20 out of 50 critical minerals located on Ukrainian land. And it's trillions, it's not billions, trillions of dollars we have on our land. So, and as you know, it's not an easy task to extract these minerals. You need the proper technologies, sophisticated technologies, which is belong mostly to either to the European Union, Japan, or United States. And actually, we will proceed with this deal. I hope that, first of all, it's not signing by Zelensky and Trump. It should be signed on a level of Minister for Finance from US side and Vice Prime Minister from Ukrainian side. So it's still feasible, and I hope we can sign it. But I think behind the scene negotiations will show us how it will end up. And one small comment on the previous question: we actually on support of energy system and cancellation of support of energy system for Ukraine from US side was agreed before Zelensky and Trump meeting. So it is in the framework of actually canceling all projects from handled by USAID, which Trump and Elon Musk have done before all these emotional exchanges, heated exchanges. So it's not linked to the discussion. It was decided before.
But what is very closely linked, Yulia, to the discussions are the security guarantees, and that became the real spat, the heated exchanges. How big are the chances that Ukraine believes that Putin is going to attack Ukraine again if the security guarantees are not made part of any kind of peace deal?
It's almost 100%. Why? Because we already, as you know, we have war for 11 years. And actually, we didn't start a big war in 2014 because our international partners asked us not to escalate. So Putin will stop. We listened to our international partners and didn't actually push back Putin from Crimea and annexed territories. And in 7 to 8 years, we had full-scale invasion. So we do not trust a single letter or single paper signed by Russia.
Yes.
We need security guarantees. As you know, we had Budapest Memorandum, and unfortunately, it's broken by Russia and partly by US. So we would like to have a real security guarantees.
That's being made amply clear. Ambassador Punappa, the European leaders bolstering support for Ukraine, developing a plan to end the war that they hope is going to get Trump's support. But Donald Trump, on his part, has made a ceasefire in Ukraine very central to his foreign policy. And it's going to be important for him to see that succeed. So is this wishful thinking on the part of the European leaders that, you know, they will be able to create a deal that Trump is going to say okay to?
You know, diplomacy requires great patience and a lot of hard work. And I might say sleepless nights.
Right.
Because the written word in an agreement is taken very seriously, which is why diplomats negotiate for hours over a draft.
Right.
What do you really mean what you say? But I'd like to step back a little bit in terms of my co-panelists' remarks.
Yes.
And you know, there's a huge churn going on in geopolitics. If you take a look at what happened, let us say, almost 100 years ago, World War II,
Yes.
had the eastward push of Germany. Now, what you're witnessing after the dissolution of the Soviet Union is perhaps a kind of westward push by Russia.
Sure.
And of course, a land grab is precisely what it seems to be within the context of the UN Charter, which talks about the preservation of the territorial integrity of the member states.
Right.
So there are very serious questions that arise over here.
Absolutely.
But acceptance.
Yes.
Acceptance of Ukraine's existence as a nation state.
Yes.
Russia's ambitions, perhaps, to restore some of the spread that they had as the Soviet Union.
Yes.
And, you know, sometimes what we believe are the norms, the rules.
Yes, but Ambassador, I just want to ask you at the juncture at which we are at right now, is this still Ukraine's war against Russia, or has it now fully transformed into Europe's war? Is this something that is going to be a significant shift that we are seeing right now?
I think it has been very much Europe's war. Ukraine has fronted for Europe, perhaps also for NATO. And I think this is something where NATO needs to be very clear about its rationale and its objectives.
Right.
When the Soviet Union dissolved, everybody assumed that NATO also would dissolve, but it didn't.
Right.
And there were questions as to why that was the case.
Right.
So then you got the issue of Russia and NATO. there was, I think, for some time a tacit understanding that the states bordering Russia would not join NATO. And that thinking changed.
Right.
So Putin responded in the manner that he did.
Sure.
But these are issues that will have to be renegotiated again, and which is why I say this is a very critical point. For at the start of this war, I had said on your channel that Europe is in turmoil because I think they were ambivalent about precisely what their degree of commitment would be.
Right.
Now they have taken a stand, which is very clear,
Yes.
while recognizing the absolute indispensability
Exactly.
of the United States as a backup.
Correct.
And
So,
if you watch the entire footage
yes.
of that Oval Office meeting,
Yes.
I wouldn't say all is lost. In fact, the fact that President Zelensky went on to Fox News of all channels
Yes.
in order to say, yes, the situation could be amended,
Yes.
in itself is significant.
So,
I wonder
and at this
whether
crucial
the
juncture,
request came from the Ukrainian side
Yes.
or from the American side.
Correct. So at this point in time where there are conciliatory notes being struck and now Europe seems to be stepping up, one wonders if it is too little too late, the UK and France leading this new coalition of the willing. The question is, will this be enough to deter Russia, or is this just another phase of escalation that we might see? Like you're saying, this is an important churn. Meanwhile, Ukraine making those moves, not just on the battlefield, but in the boardroom, so to speak, looking at economic partnerships, like Yulia is pointing out. And this one sees as part of a survival strategy. One thing is certain, this war is no longer just about Ukraine and Russia. It's shaping up to be a test for Europe's military resolve, for its economic strength, for political unity of Europe as well. But big thanks to Yulia and Ambassador Ponappa. Thank you for joining us with your insights. The war rages on, but for now, that's where we're leaving it. Thanks indeed for joining us on India
Thank you.
Tonight.
Thank you.